Hey everybody, it's Ali here from Avatar Zucchini Performance Nutrition for another Nutrition Tip Tuesday. Today's topic is going to be supplements and which ones are worth my money and time. So the ones that I'm going to present to you today are the ones with the most extensive evidence base, the ones that work. So most of these are done for sports performance, and that's why I'm letting you guys in on the secret today, because if we can enhance your sports performance, fantastic. The main message before I start, and this is the big sort of caveat where I might sort of say, you guys need to get your base right first. So dietitians typically talk about a cake. We always talk about getting the base of the cake right before we add the icing, before we add the sprinkles and then the cherry on top. Supplements are the cherry on top. You have to have everything else right with your nutrition, because think about it, if you're starting to add a supplement in and then you start eating really well, was it the supplement or the fact that you tidied up your nutrition? So have everything fantastic and in place first before you start experimenting with supplements. Otherwise you just won't know if it's working and you're spending all this money for maybe no good reason. Not everyone is a responder. So top 5 supplements that you can consider using: caffeine, beta-alanine, creatine, nitrates, and probiotics. They're my top 5. So let's start backwards. I'll just jump all over the place, I'm sure. Probiotics are fantastic, particularly if you're either at a lowered immunity state or you're traveling, for example, where you're in contact with a lot of germy people. So probiotics, essentially, whether you eat them or take a supplement, we're talking about supplements though, when they hit the gut, what they do is they act on undigested carbohydrates, and they convert those into things called short-chain fatty acids. Short-chain fatty acids are what sort of build a fantastic gut microbiome, but what they do is they lower the pH in your digestive tract. And when they do that, what happens is it becomes a really unfavourable environment for nasty pathogens that might cross our paths. So if it's an unfavourable environment, they don't thrive. So our immunity is actually heightened if we have probiotics in the gut. So that's my top tip for a supplement that has really good evidence behind it. Creatine monohydrate. So chicks especially probably going, oh, I want to bulk up, I don't want to take creatine. Creatine doesn't actually make you bulk up. You have to exercise with it. You have to be doing the right type of exercise. So we already produce creatine naturally. The best responders are going to be the ones who aren't eating a lot, and you get creatine from meat. So if you're a veggie and you're having creatine, you're probably going to respond a lot better. What it does is it's acting on your phosphocreatine system. So that's an energy system in the body. And when creatine acts on that, basically it's giving you more availability to work optimally in that phosphocreatine system of exercise, which is short burst, high intensity, explosive activity. So think weights, think sprints, those sorts of activities benefit from that phosphocreatine system. So if you're taking in creatine and pumping up that reserve of phosphocreatine in the system, then you're going to adapt better to those types of sessions. So if it is weightlifting, then if you're adapting better, you're going to see an increase in size of muscles because you're working that little bit harder each time. So creatine is a well-researched, good outcome supplement if you're looking, if you're training in those zones, I guess, that short burst, high intensity activity. What else did we say? Caffeine. Caffeine is one that I'll discuss in greater detail in its very own Nutrition Tip Tuesday, but essentially caffeine decreases your rating of perceived exertion, gets your heart pumping really fast, gets your blood vessels dilated, so that you're able to, and you guys probably feel it, so that you're able to perform more optimally in a session, particularly if for some reason you're withholding carbs before a session. Caffeine can be a nice way to boost you a little bit if you're low on your reserves of muscle glycogen. So there's those 3. Then we've got beta-alanine as another one. Beta-alanine is an interesting one. It works in the same way that bicarb soda does, but just a long-acting version, and it works in a different part of the cell. You could essentially put teaspoons of bicarb soda in water and drink that before a session, and you'd have a pretty similar outcome. It's pretty gross though, and it has some nasty side effects. So Beta-alanine buffers your lactic acid accumulation. What that means is that, if we just did wall sits here now, eventually my poor quads would start to feel burny. So the beta-alanine can buffer that buildup, and what that means is that instead of becoming more acidic in the muscle, the beta-alanine is more alkaline, so you're kind of washing out that feeling of lactic acid accumulation, and you can actually push further in a session and harder in a session before you feel that buildup. So there were those 4, and the final one, can you remember, Nikki? Creatine, caffeine, beta-alanine, probiotics, nitrates. So beetroot juice. So nitrates you can actually get from a lot of your veg if there were nitrates in the soil. So the root vegetables, they tend to absorb nitrates from the soil. So you don't necessarily have to have beetroot juice, but as a supplement, that little beetroot shot or beetroot juice is a really potent vasodilator. So it widens your blood vessels. And this is the nitric oxide when it gets into your system, that's what works on that. When that happens, what you've got is more capacity, a widened highway essentially, like lanes may have been closed off and now they've been opened, so way more cars can move through on the highway. That's your oxygen in your red blood cells, and it's also key nutrients that need to get to working muscles or waste products that need to come out. Everything's flowing more effectively, and that's the way that beetroot juice works. So those are my top 5 supplements. That was super quick, but those are the ones that I would suggest to clients first and foremost. Once they've got their cake baked and perfect, and they've iced it really nicely, then we can start to put the sprinkles and the cherry on top. Thank you. I will see you next week for another Nutrition Tip Tuesday.